A pleasant good morning to everyone, and welcome once again to another edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. The guest menu looks like this. Joining me for the first time will be Micah Coker of BlackCollegeNines.com and Black College Nines. Micah Coker. He'll join me very shortly. Following Michael Coker will be the head football coach of the Alabama State Hornets, Coach Donald Hill-Ely. He'll join me in hour number one. Then we transition to hour number two. Dr. Travian Scott will join me. And then last but not least, Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network. Here's simply what's trending on the Carlos Brown Show. Major League Baseball and Southern University great Lou Brock passed away this past week at the age of 81. And Michael Coker, who produced an article on BlackCollegeNines.com, he's going to give me his perspective on what Lou Brock meant to Major League Baseball, HBCU baseball in general. But Lou Brock, journeys from this life. Journey well, Lou Brock, at the age of 81. Southern University and Jackson State to play in the spring 2021 season. And it's going to be a non-conference game. Many of you contacted me about where's Jackson State on the schedule. Well, now it's on the schedule for 2021 for the spring. Now, some of you have contacted me and said, but why is the game being played in Jackson? Unbelievable. Dr. Travian Scott will answer that question and more about Southern Jackson State to play in the spring 2021 season as a non-conference game. Alcorn State mourns the passing of former AD Dr. James Brooks. Our thoughts and prayers go out to the Alcorn State family. That's what's trending on today's Carlos Brown Show. For those of you who are interested, Brother Prince, some call him Dr. Prince, I call him Brother Michael Prince. His debt is paid in full, for the record. And if you're just tuning in, you're saying, what the heck is he talking about? Well, we had a little wager. You win some, you lose some. The wager was on who did we think would be the school to move from the from the Eastern Division to the Western Division. I predicted Alcorn State for selfish reasons and geographical reasons, but more so from a competitive standpoint. And, of course, last week we announced that Alcorn State is moving to the Western Division. Dr. Prince, he gave a logical response why he thought Mississippi Valley State would move to the Western Division. So I appreciate the debt being paid in full. And let me say, first and foremost, again, thank you, Dr. Prince, and good morning to you.
Good morning to you, sir, and I hope that you will never have another day of thirst for the rest of your days.
Well, I appreciate it. Water is the life liquid,
Yes,
and I have a nice cup right here, and I'll let you know how that spring water tastes.
I'm pretty sure
that I'm going to pick up shortly. And so next week I'll have a report on that.
Okay, I'm looking forward to that report, man. You been doing all right, though, man?
Other than that, yes, I've been okay. Can't complain. How about yourself?
You know what? I was heavy. I know you made mention of Lou Brock, Swac, baseball legend. Grew up watching Lou Brock with St. Louis Cardinals. I grew up, of course, in St. Louis. And to add, he was my fraternity brother. So it was a sad day. Living legend in St. Louis. Living legend. Loved him immensely. And going to be greatly missed. And can't wait to hear what Coker has to say about, from the insights. A great baseball writer, great baseball mind, and he's always good to indulge with when you talk about the sport of baseball.
Yeah, I have the article pulled up here with me, and it's an excellent picture. If you listening now, if you want to go to blackcollegenines.com and you click on HBCU Baseball Mourns the loss of one of its greatest, and just a tremendous person, player, and I learned a few things from reading this article. But he was truly growing up. Boy, we used to even had a saying and take it in the spirit it is given. This is call him the thief of Baghdad. Mm-hmm. Because he would get on, once he got on base, you knew it was coming. Could you stop it? Right. And but also a complete player, being a leadoff hitter and getting on, and he had to work on his craft and his game from college, from a dismal batting average and great response and just improved, and it's just going to be a tremendous loss. But as I often will say, journey well. Yes, sir. We all will have to journey from this physical place.
He had that element that, regardless of what level you're on, you could never teach, and that was speed. You could teach the other fine arts of hitting, how to throw properly, but you cannot teach speed. It's just a given fact. And when you talk about their 5-tool players, there's power, average, defense, speed, and IQ, baseball IQ. And he was definitely 3-4-tool player. Didn't hit for a lot of power, but his baseball hitting increased, it seemed, each year as he got up into the majors, and probably wanted to go down as one of the greatest trades that was lopsided when the Cubs traded him to the Cardinals. And I believe it was 1964 or 65 or something like that.
And when I said you learn something, I'm a Chicago Cubs fan, and I believe Michael Coker is as well. I'll ask him that.
I got to mute you guys.
Well, no, we'll bring it back on and talk about. I respect the team, but
man, we really started off so nice.
St. Louis, yeah, well, but it is one of those situations. People would automatically think, hey, either the Braves or the Houston Astros, of course, being in Louisiana, and the Astros being the closest Major League Baseball team. But no, I just kind of like them, the Cubs. So with that being said, we'll take the first time out of today's show, and when I return, I'll visit and have a conversation with Michael Coker of Black College Nines. You're listening to the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com.
Attention all coaches. Whatever your sport is, we want to tell your story. Dial our 24 hours, 7 days a week message line at 713-570-6736. Leave your game results, team results, and player results on our 24-hour message line, 713-570-6736. Have sports, we'll travel. The Open Mic Broadcast Network, serving the community through faith and athletics, the voice of student athletics.
Your education, your health care, your community, your future. Your vote counts for many things. Take control. Get registered. Get educated. Get out and vote. Learn more at www.vote411.org. This is a public service announcement from Open Mic Broadcast Network.
Come on.
Laptops, MP3 players, cameras, video games, cell phones. In times like these, schools can become a shopping mall for thieves. Don't become a victim of crime. Leave your valuable stuff at home, and if you do have to bring them to school, keep them with you. Write down their serial numbers, and don't flash expensive items around. Be smart. If you have something cool, there's a good chance someone else will want it too. Keep cash and ATM cards in a secure place, and never give anyone your PIN number. And don't leave your school bag lying around where it can become a temptation to someone else. If you have something stolen, report the situation immediately. The sooner you tell someone, the better the chance you'll get it back. Visit ncpc.org to learn more about how to prevent school theft. That's ncpc.org. A message.
Chris, can you put the video game controller down for a second?
I can talk and play. Oh, I'm totally annihilating this punk kid in Nebraska.
I just feel like you're not acting like a grown-up in our relationship.
Am too.
Well, you still ride your skateboard to work, there's the comic book collection, the race car bed.
Look, I'm young at heart, but I put money into my 401k every paycheck. I picked up a few savings tips at feedthepig.org. I have control of my financial life now, and that feels pretty grown up.
Put away a few bucks, feel like $1,000,000. Putting some money from every paycheck into a savings account or contributing to your 401k can make a big difference later. For free ideas and easy tips on ways to save, go to feedthepig.org. That's feedthepig.org.
So, I bet I look like a grown-up to you now.
Well, except for the footy pajamas, I'd have to agree.
This message brought to you by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Today's first guest, Michael Coker of Black College Nines and BlackCollegeNines.com. Michael, good morning to you. Welcome to the Carlos Brown Show for the first time and hopefully not the last time.
Yes, sir. Glad to have me aboard. I'm glad to be aboard. How are you, Mr. Brown?
I'm doing fine. How about yourself?
I'm doing wonderful.
Well, that is a good thing. This past week, lost a Major League Baseball and Southern University and HBCU baseball great in Lou Brock. He passed away at the age of 81. I want to just kind of get your thoughts on the loss of such a outstanding player and person. Get your thoughts on Lou Brock.
Lou Brock was the constant professional when it came to baseball and sports. Back in the day, baseball was a black man's sport, and it came through historically black colleges and universities, in particular the Swac conference. And Lou Brock played at Southern, and back in Major League Baseball is probably one of the toughest sports to make it to play at the professional level, because you have to go through the minor league system, and that's everybody. That's not just anyone. That's everybody. And back then, that was our sport. And Lou Brock, when he played, he was a good player. But he struggled his first year because he was learning how to play the college game. After his first year, he hit like 189, and that's a very low batting statistic. But then the next year he turned it around and he ended up batting 524, which is unheard of. And he led Southern to a national championship that year. And Lou Brock was a constant professional. He treated the game and he played the game with respect. And that wasn't just when he made it to the major leagues. That was throughout his major league career until his final days of playing. And you don't find that nowadays. Everything is glamour. He treated it like it was he gave back to the game by playing the game according to the way it should be played. And that's how Lou Brock will remain as one of the Major League's best, not just a player, but one of the ambassadors who pushed the game through, played the game through, and respected the game, how it was played. And that's how he's being remembered.
It's very interesting that you talk about Lou Brock and the way he improved. And if I could, in a great article that you produced, got a chance to read it, but toward the end, and it won't take long, I'll just read it. He was known for his speed and the pressure he put on his opponents when he was on base. But Lou Brock was much more than a stolen base specialist. He was a daring leadoff man, a complete player, and a clutch hitter. He was gentle, driven, universally admired and respected by his peers. You were just talking about him not only on the field but off the field, but history will look at it as a stolen base, specialist. But in your article, you said he basically was a complete player, leadoff man, which is important, get on base, and then a clutch hitter. I think that is profound when you look at just the way you worded that, because I think most people will look at him being a stolen base specialist, but the baseball purists and the people who really follow baseball, they can really understand that part of your article that I just read.
Well, he did a lot for the game, a lot in the game. Baseball is a different sport. Sometimes you give yourself up to advance the base runner to another base. It's an out, but you still have 3 outs. And he was a clutch hitter. He not only did he drive in more than 900 runs, he put himself. He thought of his teammates first. He thought of, if I can't get them home, then I'll get them in a position as to where somebody else would drive them home. That's a clutch hitter. And then the second part of clutch hitting is when you're able to put the ball in play and you're able to get on yourself. Now, a leadoff hitter is your best hitter in baseball. That's why he bats in the number 1 spot, is because he's able to get on base at any given time. But when Lou Brock got on base, he made the entire defense nervous, because you knew that he was going to steal the base, but you didn't know how he was going to steal it. And then you never knew when he was going to stop going from station to station. There are times in games where he attempted to steal second. The ball was hit to the infield, and the infielder would throw the ball across the infield to first base. Lou Brock didn't stop. Lou Brock would steal second and then go all the way to third and force a play at third. And he would slide in safe. And that was a chance. That's clutch hitting. And that's where you're putting pressure on the defense to get you out. And if you look at his stats and the things that he did, I mean, he had one year he had 118 stolen bases. That record was broken by another Hall of Famer, Ricky Henderson. Mm-hmm. But at that time, that was unheard of. And then the fact that he did, one year he had 50 stolen bases, 20 home runs. And that's a feat that has not really been done in the last 50 to 60 years. So it was not just his play on the field, because he played the game and he pushed the game to new heights. He gave it his all. He gave everything about him. And I can remember as a kid, because I'm a big time Chicago Cubs fan, born in Illinois. And I remember Lou Brock playing, and I remember the cameras on him in the dugout, and he always had a smile on his face. He was always encouraging his players. If you didn't get a hit this time, we'll get it next time. Don't worry. Those days are long gone. And a lot of that came from the fact that that's how baseball was played at HBCUs. And Lou Brock was one of the best from an HBCU. Out of many, he was one of the best.
Visiting with Michael Coker of Black College Nines and blackcollegenines.com, talking about the loss of Lou Brock and what he meant to Major League Baseball, HBCU baseball, Southern University, and a proud achievement. And I've seen several interviews via YouTube on Lou Brock, and he talked about his humble beginnings and coming to Southern University, and as you stated earlier, struggling in his first year, then able to come back and win a championship. The National Association of Intercollegiate Athletics Baseball Championship is junior year. Many people probably don't remember that if they weren't around, but how significant was that? Because I would think there has not been a championship by HBCU since then.
No, there hasn't, because the NAI, the National Association of Intercollegiate Athletics, was the NCAA back then.
Mm-hmm.
And the NCAA was big, but it wasn't as big and as popular as it is now. And that came about because it's a huge $1 million money stream, revenue generating, sport. I shouldn't say sports, but an official governing body for the intercollegiate sports. And the NAIA was the tops back then. So that was our national championship. We've had teams that have gone on to the regional playoffs, but we've not had anybody has won like we did back then with Southern or some of the other schools. But the thing that I like about it is the fact that the pipeline to Major League Baseball at that time was HBCUs. Mm-hmm. And Lou Brock, some of the Southern greats, Lou Block, Carr, and some of your coaches nowadays that are coaching in the HBCU ranks came from Southern, came from the Swac school. And that Southern baseball program that Lou Brock came from, it's one of, I've always considered it, and across the nation, they've always considered that as one of the top HBCU baseball programs out there. Unlike the SEC or the Big Ten conference, the bigger conferences, HBCUs put out some good product on the field, and especially Southern. I mean, Southern had a Ricky Weeks, who was a National Player of the Year. You look at Lou Brock's what he did. I mean, hitting over 500 in college baseball. Nobody does that. Nobody hits 500. To this day, nobody. If you get a good guy who makes Major League Baseball, he's hitting 3-something. But 5-something, unheard of.
And as you stated, tremendous history. And with a program like Southern that has a rich tradition, then Coach Roger Cador comes along, Ricky Weeks. Then they have a time period where program is not as successful, and now another St. Louis native, Kerry Jackson, taking over the baseball program. And I mean, even if you look in the conference, Texas Southern, they have a rich tradition. Jackson State, and then Michael, get your thoughts on this while I have you here. The addition of FAMU and Bethune-Cookman, Andre Dawson, FAMU. I think baseball is going to be in a tremendous shape and have a great opportunity here in the Southwestern Athletic Conference. What do you think about those two additions?
I think that it's huge, and I wrote about it in a prior post for Black College Nines. That was a game changer. It was not just in terms of revenue, but you have two Florida programs that are very strong. You take Bethune-Cookman. Bethune, under Coach Melinda Melendez, when he was there, he built that program into a powerhouse. Bethune-Cookman is considered an HBCU baseball powerhouse for the 20-year period that they just dominated. And they dominated nationally across the board. And then you have FAM. Ever since Jamie Schultz has come over to FAM, they've gone to 2 regionals in his 7 years of coaching. And he's building that program. into. I think they're a year away from being a national powerhouse. But the fact that they're in the Swac, this gives the Swac 11 teams to compete in baseball, in college baseball. It opens them up for what those two teams are going to bring to the SWAC. They're going to bring more of a national base. I mean, they're going to be playing a lot more nationally ranked teams. They're going to be playing a tougher schedule, and it opens the program, the baseball program for the SWAC up as do it. It's going to generate more revenue and get more recruits because you're getting what they're bringing to the table. It's a heavy recruited area as far as recruiting baseball players out of the South, out of Florida. Florida is one of your top, if not the top places to recruit baseball players because Florida is warm year round throughout the entire state. And you have all of these kids who live in Florida. I mean, there's so many cities in Florida as to where baseball is the dominant sport. And that's going to open up not just revenue generating for the conference, but recruiting. They went and got two of the best teams out of the MEAC that's going to compete in the SWAC. And I guarantee you in the next 2 to 3 years, you're going to see the SWAC as being a major conference to reckon with as far as baseball.
Well, I would think, just in my humble opinion, a goal would be for the conference as a whole. You'll have your automatic bid, but ultimately get a second bid and an at-large bid because of competition and how strong the conference will become in baseball. Do you think that's a realistic goal to have a second team participating in NCAA regionals as an at-large bid?
Well, not just a second team, because you're getting two teams from the two HBCU conferences. The MEAC, you're getting the conference championship, so that's two teams right there. What this does, and several factors here that can happen, and I'm hoping it does. I'm hoping that the SWAC officials will say to the NCAA, we're going to send a second team. We're going to send the conference champion and the regular season champions to a regional. But here's the bigger picture. Mm-hmm. One of the ways to get into a conference and have more than one team or two teams from your conference is you have to have a RPI rating. That's the rating percentage index.
Right. What
that does is once you reach a certain level of that index, you automatically get a bid. So it's a good chance that, as an example, let's say, one of the stout teams in the SWAC is Alabama State. Let's say Alabama State runs the course and runs a conference. They take the conference and then they take the conference championship. But let's say Southern University and let's see Mississippi Valley State come in second and third, and they have a winning record. And they took on some top-ranked teams, and they beat those top-ranked teams during the season, and they have a high RPI rating. They will receive a regional bid. So you're looking at conference championship. I'm hoping that the SWAC officials do, and that these teams, because I believe FAMU and Bethune-Cookman is going to open that conference up as to where the conference RPI ratings and their strength of schedule will boost them into an RPI advantage. And I think that that's really going to happen. That was one of the considerations that they had going in. Besides, it's more than just selecting those teams out of the South to generate revenue or generate the sport. It's also the fact that once you get a higher RPI rating, that it opens a conference up for better players, not just revenue streaming, recruiting, and a lot of things that factor in that we don't see, that never gets reported about HBCU is HBCU's academics are high. So it's going to open it up as to where they're going to be getting better student athletes to compete. at the intercollegiate level.
Boy, 2021, FAMU, Bethune-Cookman University. They're in the conference. A lot of excitement generated by those two universities coming in, and we've talked on this show. I mean, football gets most of the news, but man, baseball, it's going to be very exciting. Last but not least, Michael, have you got anything else you want to talk about as far as with Lou Brock? And then I want to make sure to get your social media information and contact information out for those who would like to follow you if they're not following you already. But in closing with Lou Brock.
Baseball is going to miss its number one ambassador, who put the game out there the way it should have been. He was the constant, as I stated before, professional. He was universally loved because of his actions on the field. He wasn't a person who liked controversy. He played the game. He went home. He prepared for the next day's job, as we all do. That's going to be missed, and he was respected by his peers because of the person that Lou Brock was. On the field, he was the same. Off the field, he was the same. His heart was in everything that he did. And I'm hoping that kids learn from this. If they don't know who Lou Brock is, do your research and find out that not only was he an iconic figure, he was also the most admired human being of all of professional sports. And that's how I remember him as a kid. Although, I shouldn't say this, but I'm going to put it out there. He was a Cub.
Oh, yeah. See, that's one of the things I learned. I must be honest.
And then for some odd reason, the Cubs just gave up on him, and and his career just exploded after that. And see, that's what happens when you're put in a situation as to where you might not succeed there, but you get another chance, and then because it happened to him twice. He did it in college and he did it in the pros. And boy, as a kid, I was not happy. I was not happy for that because, the Cubs would have gone and won some championship. We would not have suffered the 108 years until we won in 2016. If we had Lou Brock back then with Ernie Banks.
Oh, Michael, I tell you, I'm a Cubs fan as well. And 2016, I can still remember it, but I agree absolutely with you. History would have changed for the Cubs. In September 10, 1961, Lou Brock made his major league debut with the Cubs, then traded to the Cardinals in 1964. That's a great year, 1964. I'll have to explain that one to everyone at a later date. But your contact information, Michael.
You can see all my baseball writings at Black College Nines. We cover strictly HBCU baseball. But if you want to contact me, you can. My email is michael@blackcollegenines.com, or you can reach me by phone 954-687-2095. We are on Twitter, and we're also on Facebook. But if you really, really want to contact HBCU baseball or learn a little bit more about it, visit blackcollegenines.com. We got some great writers, not just myself. Jay Sokol is the founder. He is the head historical guy. There's Douglas Milan, he's a good featured writer. Harold Michael Harvey. Harold Michael Harvey does some really, really good things on the Swac and MEAC conference. And Chuck Gerdy's out of Pittsburgh. Great editor, great writer. Him and I were together when we were with Black College Baseball about 12, 13 years ago, covering HBCU baseball. And then there's John Winters. John Winters is an umpire. He's a collegiate umpire for the Division I baseball. He lives out in Oklahoma. So we have a wealth of experience in what we do. how we go about our what we present on the field. And we're the only national publication for HBCU baseball, and I'm so happy to be a part of the Mike Prince show. Mike Prince and Carlos Brown. Thank you for having me on board. But I do want to, in closing, say this to you, that we're working on getting an HBCU national championship. We kind of had one in place for 2 teams for the small HBCU schools that we call them. But when the coronavirus hit, that changed everything because we were days away from making our announcement. But we're still working on a national championship for our large schools. It's much needed. It's really needed for us to crown an HBCU baseball champion, not just a mythical, but one that's settled on the field.
Yes. Great information and great news. Michael, we appreciate the time as always. We'll talk again real soon.
Anytime I'm available. I'll make myself available.
Appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
God bless you and God keep you guys. Thanks.
God bless you. That was Michael Coker of Black College Nines. We'll take a quick break and then we'll transition. Coming up next is Coach Donald Hill Ely. He's itching. He's ready to go to come on the show. You're listening to the Carlos Brown Show on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com.
Results from Friday Night Football high school action within the Waller County and local areas. The Bay City Black Cats victorious over the Wharton Tigers by the score of 42-31. Iola Bulldogs 12 and the Lovelady Lions 28. Snook Blue Jays 20 and the Thrall Tigers 26. Sealy had no problem with summer rest. The Tigers 45, the Bulldogs 6. The Gidding Buffaloes no problem with the Taylor Ducks, victorious by the score of 46-12. Stratford Spartans 28, Belleville Brahmas 30. The East Bernard Brahmas 42 and the Bowling Bulldogs 9. The Brazos Cougars victorious over the Burton Panthers by the score of 18-12. Blanco Panthers 34 and the Anderson Shiro Fighting Owls 9. The Mahia Black Cats victorious over the Navasota Rattlers by the score of 38-14. And in volleyball, the Hempstead Lady Cats got swept by Burton 3-0. Those were your scores from the Waller County local area high school athletics over the course of the weekend. Be sure to join us each and every week for our local high school scores. If you or your team would like to be highlighted on the Open Mic Broadcast Network, simply dial 713-570-6736. Leave your results, information, and featured players highlighted, and we'll put them right in the mix. Serving the community through faith and athletics, the Open Mic Broadcast Network, Prairie View, Texas.
Drivers and bicyclists both have the right to be on the road and travel safely. And when we're on the road together, safety is a shared responsibility. State law requires drivers to maintain at least 3 feet of clearance when passing bicyclists. And bicyclists should always ride with the direction of traffic and follow all traffic signals. It's safer. It's courteous. It's the law. A message from the Regional Planning Commission Pedestrian and Bicycle Program.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. The next guest I'm going to visit with is the head football coach of the Alabama State Hornets, Coach Donald Hill Ely. Coach, good morning to you. Welcome to the Carlos Brown Show.
Hey, thank you guys for having me, man. Glad to be here.
Well, we're glad to have you. And Coach, football program, COVID-19, how are you and your staff and your players, how are you doing dealing with this pandemic?
Well, the thing about it, we're trying to coach a contact sport through Zoom, so that's definitely interesting. But just making the adjustments from it, trying to keep all the players safe, and the biggest thing is just trying to get them reacclimated to campus and this new normal.
New normal. And I've talked to plenty of director of athletics in the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and basically Zoom has become a great way to communicate. And coach, people are trying to stay safe, so you're basically doing what everyone else has stated, trying to be safe, trying to keep the program together, and getting ready for spring 2021 football schedule. And if I could, Coach, can I go back last year? I know that was last year. You finished 5-6 overall, 4-3 in the Eastern Division, a third place. With that being said, do you feel that you guys have the momentum to make the next step and compete again for an Eastern Division title and then maybe going on to the championship?
Yeah, before all this pandemic stuff came, I thought, that the staff had did a great job of putting the right pieces in place. And as far as the, staff itself, the continuity would help us. And I think coming out of the pandemic, we'll have that same opportunity to be able to compete for a championship. The key now is just making sure that we have, as we get back to coaching football and getting the guys back acclimated to practice and those kind of things, is that we get them back in a position where that they hadn't dropped off from where they were. You figure 6 months, we hadn't had opportunity to work our guys out on the field in 6 months. So you can imagine what they look like, without having the opportunity to go to the weight room, without having that nutritious meal that they normally get, or balance that they get while they're on campus. So when we take the field next week, that'll be the first time we worked our guys out in 6 months.
Interesting, but not a unique story for your program. So basically, Coach, you have to rely on your student athletes trying to be in some kind of physical condition. Have they been working out on their own, or did they get a program to follow, working on their own during this pandemic?
Oh yeah, what we tried to do as a program is give them a workout manual so that they could, when they follow during the time that they were home. And for a lot of part, the young men, one thing this pandemic has done is it has given them a new interest in wanting to play football. It's given them, and even just being at school, it has given them, I guess, a rejuvenation, or it has given them a new birth in why we play the game. So a lot of the young men, as you see, we hadn't had the opportunity to work them out. They've been going out there doing things on their own, and really trying to be prepared for the season whenever we get the opportunity to play.
I'm visiting with Coach Donald Hill Ewing, head football coach at Alabama State University, looking into the spring 2021 football schedule. It's very interesting. But before we talk about that, what was the reaction of your student athletes in the program when they found out that, hey, football season fall 2020 wasn't going to happen, and then it was going to, if I move to 2021 in the spring, if the cases are manageable? How did they feel about that?
Well, there's a lot of depression that goes with it. Uncertainty. There's a lot of stuff that goes with it, because we figured for all these years, everyone has prepared that, Labor Day brings football season. It brings the actual play, and the things that, we've, been trying to do to prepare them for the season, normally in July, you everywhere in the country, you see tracks and fields full of guys getting prepared to go back for that opportunity to play. And now you're saying, okay, we're going to play in January. So now you have to take all that energy, rebottle it back up, and now to be able to uncap it again in January.
Yeah. Well, and it's kind of like life. You have things planned, but sometimes it doesn't go that way. How you make the adjustment is going to be key in succeeding. And speaking of adjustment, of course, spring 2021 football schedule, Alabama State kicks it off February 26, 2021, against a school I happen to know just a little bit about, Southern University. But that should be an interesting way to kick off the season, Coach.
Well, it's a contest that we hadn't played those guys in maybe 3-4 years. So, two schools sit kind of close, relatively close in proximity. They're 4 hours apart, 4.5 hours apart. And it's an old rivalry. It's the part of the old Gulf Coast rivalry that we get a chance to play a team that has won the West. And we have to make sure that we have things together for them. Coach Odom's done a great job down there and having those guys prepared year in and year out. And, we're looking forward to a great contest.
And, Coach, I would think now, you tell me if I'm off base on this, but, of course, at Alabama State, plenty of experience coaching in the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference, of course, at Morgan State. So, with the addition of FAMU and Bethune-Cookman University, they won't surprise Coach Ely, based on knowing the personnel and coaching in the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference. What is your thoughts on those two universities now in the Southwestern Athletic Conference?
I think it's a great addition with FAM and Bethune coming over. I think it puts a mark on our conference as being the number one HBCU Division I conference. With those two guys coming over now, I think the parity and that it will give our conference with their traditions. It matches the Swac, from the band to the to the fan base and how they go about their athletics and especially football. So it's going to be a welcome addition to the Swac. And for its familiarity, Coach Simmons and Coach Sims down there, I've known those guys for a bunch of years, so I know they're going to have some real competitive programs, and to be able to line down against them is definitely going to be a welcoming challenge.
Well, Coach, I thought maybe when I asked the question, I said, well, does it give Alabama State an advantage because of familiarity with coaching in the MEAC? But I guess it still comes down to execution and who game plans the best to come out on top.
That's it. Who has the guys better prepared. Like the coaching at Morgan and going against them, I'm very familiar with their traditions. But over the course of time, it's about them guys on the field. So that's I hadn't had a chance to coach the actual players, against the players that they have on the field. But I know those two traditions have been the same and have been a championship tradition over the last couple of years that I've known about their programs.
I'm visiting with Coach Donald Hill Ely, head football coach at Alabama State. And Coach, I know a lot of your time is spent, of course, with running the program, but on sports talk shows like this and many other in black college sports, last week it was announced, of course, that Alcorn State, moving from the Eastern Division to the Western Division. You saw, of course, Alcorn State up close. Do you think with that move now you have a balance between the two divisions, or it wouldn't have mattered to Coach Ely if they would have stayed in the Eastern Division? You still had to compete and you still had to go through them one way or the other.
Oh yeah, and then with the way that the conference is set, it's no easy Saturdays, and it's no no wish given wins anymore in this conference. With Alcorn moving to the West, I mean, just by proximity alone, and that it helps all the institutions to now go to five games and. Having them over on that western side, but more importantly, it adds to that competition on the west, and then it adds to the competition on the east because we're not trading in Alcorn from the east to get two Cinderellas over here in the east. So both the programs that we're bringing in has the same rich competitive tradition as all the other competitive teams in our conference.
Yeah, it gathered a lot of conversation about who's going to move. And, Coach, I've had talking to people this past week, they were more concerned about not allowing FAMU and Bethune-Cookman University to come in and dominate the East. I said, well, they're going to have to earn it. It's not going to be given to them.
It won't be a walk in the park, so they won't come in and just all of a sudden take over. We still got to welcome them to the Swac.
Point well taken, Coach. That's the spirit there. Nothing's going to be given. You got to earn it. Visiting with Coach Donald Ely, head football coach at Alabama State. For 2021, spring and then proceeding on to the fall, your strengths on your football team and what you believe that you guys have to work and improve on for your football program. And then also, Coach, reading some publications this past year, you guys got a lot of accolades for having an outstanding recruiting season. So if you could talk about those couple of things for me.
Well, we felt that with the staff returning and, that was going to give us some continuity, which we hadn't had in the last couple of years. But more importantly, I thought, at times we played good defense and times we played good offense. In order for us to be able to win this thing, we're going to have to play good in all three phases every single week. And I think we're capable of doing it. This past year, we had the number one recruiting class, so that tells you the effort that the coaches are putting in, but also it says a lot about the brand that we're selling here at Alabama State. That a lot of the young folks want to be a part of it. So we have to back that last recruiting year up with another top recruiting class, and I think as we're able to do that, we'll be able to turn the corner where we're a competitive program year in and year out and competing for championships.
Well, you get another shot at, of course, Alcorn State as we pull up your spring schedule for 2021. Start off with Southern, at Alcorn, Jackson State, UAPV, Valley, Alabama A&M, and you still have room to add a non-conference game. Do you look forward to doing that, or you'll be able to, you think, get another game in?
Well, anytime you open up with the two teams that played in the Swac championship, as I told the players, we say we want to play in the championship. Well, we're going to play in it the first two games of the season. We're going to play in the East and the West. And so I think what that does, it gives us, a great test and barometer for our program to see where we are on both sides of this thing. And, we're looking forward to it, and we'll be prepared to take that on. And as you look at the non-conference game or that we get an opportunity to play, hopefully we're able to play one of those teams that we're able to get our crowd back at home and get some good tradition into that stadium where we can, showcase what we have to offer here in Montgomery.
And then last but not least, of course, we have Alabama A&M in the Magic City Classic. And, Coach, I'm sure there's no pressure with participating in that game. And if you lose, the fans, they accept it. Or am I? I'm being facetious. How is that, the pressure-wise, coaching against your arch rival?
Well, anytime, that's the game, throw the records out. That's the bragging rights games. That's the game for recruiting. That's the game for all the marbles. And, right now going into that game as a head coach, I'm 1-2. So that scale ain't tipping the way that I want to tip it. So we got to find a way to go in there and get that trophy back down here and get that win back in that Magic City Classic. We all know that game is a pride-built game. It's a long tradition game, but more importantly, it's a game that we need to win.
Well, couldn't have said it any better on that one. Coach, we want to thank you for joining us here on the Carlos Brown Show. Appreciate the time. Hopefully we'll get a chance to speak again real soon. Continued safety and blessings to you, your family, and the Alabama State athletic family. We appreciate the time, Coach.
Thank you, and thank you guys for having me.
Thank you. Have a great weekend, Coach.
You do the same.
Thank you, sir. That was Coach Donald Hill Ely, head football coach of the Alabama State Hornets. Well, a couple of things I could point to in that discussion. Coaches are going to be coaches, but hey, FAMU and Bethune-Cookman University, you'll have to earn it. Nothing's going to be given to you. And I brought up the reference point because I'm still engaging and talking with people that still believe that Alcorn State moving to the Western Division now gives FAMU and Bethune-Cookman an easy path, in their opinions. Now, that's opinions. I like to talk about facts and opinions. Opinion is that they want to make it difficult for them. When you heard Coach Ely say, look, they're going to have to earn it. And that is a valid statement. They're going to have to earn it. We got about 3 minutes left in our number one here on the Carlos Brown Show. I want to thank some people, some individuals who have donated to the Carlos Brown Show, and you can always support the Carlos Brown Show, and not only the Carlos Brown Show, but Black Media, all of the shows, my colleagues, that they do, because I always say we are important. No one can tell our story like we can. And I really appreciate the support, the dialogue, the conversation. So with that being said, Jack Harrell, thank you. Donnie Epton, thanks to you. Marietta Wicks, thanks to you. Desmond Allen, thanks to you for a donation. Craig Pierre, thank you so much for the donation this past week. And of course, always, I want to thank Michael Elam, as always, and Adrian Wilson. Couldn't do it without the support. So I appreciate it. Remember, you can always support the Carlos Brown Show. Cash App, the Carlos Brown Show. But I just wanted to thank those who have donated, and they felt it was a need to donate. So I really appreciate the donations. Thanks once again. Coming up in hour number 2, Dr. Travian Scott. He'll join me, Deputy AD at Southern University and Chief Operating Officer. But, hopefully he's going to be in a good mood. He should be. He's a big Lakers fan, and oh, my goodness. He should be happy. But he'll join me. And then Charles Epman on the Alcorn State Radio Network will join me also in hour number 2. We talked about Major League Baseball and Southern University. Great Lou Brock passed away this week at age 81. Southern and Jackson State, and with Dr. Scott coming up, we want to kind of get into the particulars of Southern and Jackson State, because if you remember, before this thing called the pandemic, that was going to be a big home game. Now they're going to play in a non-conference game in the spring 2021. So who'll give us the particulars on that situation? Alcorn State mourns the passing of former Director of Athletics, Dr. James Brooke. And I can kind of feel how people are feeling. This today would have been the Pete Richardson Classic in Baton Rouge, and that return game, Southern and FAMU. Can you imagine the tailgating going on if we didn't have this pandemic? A huge crowd. You could walk on campus and you will find everything from fried catfish to gumbo, including Dr. Prince ducking and doing gumbo. You would have had all kinds of meats, desserts, unbelievable. And then at 6 p.m., it was going to be rocking. You may have had close to 100,000 people on campus. But it's not going to happen. So some of you I know probably going through some withdrawals right now, but that's all right. It's going to be all right. This thing called COVID, you'll eventually get through it. Eventually we'll get through it. That's it for hour number one. Take a top of the hour break. When I come back, I'll visit with Dr. Travian Scott, Deputy Athletic Director and COO, Chief Operating Officer at Southern University. You're listening to the Carlos Brown Show on the Open Mic Broadcast Network.
Serving the community through faith and athletics. The Open Mic Broadcast Network.
It's the Open Mic with Dr. Mike. The OB Radio and the Mike Prince Show. The Open Mic Broadcast Network. The Open Mic Broadcast Network.
Hello, this is Alonzo Hardy Jr., the president of the Swac Alumni Association. The Swac Alumni Association is an organization founded on December 10, 1999, at the Sheraton Hotel in Birmingham, Alabama. Its mission is to serve as a rallying ground for individuals who have made the Southwestern Athletic Conference the illustrious conference that it is today. Its membership is open to former student athletes who played in the conference in any sport, as well as to coaches, athletic administrators, staff members, game officials, and fans. Annually, the association holds a Legends Awards and Roast Banquet or luncheon where it honors individuals with Lifetime Achievement Awards, a Chuck Prophet Wackenmaster Award, and occasionally a Distinguished Service Award. Proceeds from that event help to finance degree completion scholarships for student athletes who have exhausted their playing eligibility at Swac universities, but who may still need an extra semester or two to complete their college studies. For more information on the Swac Alumni Association or to get information on becoming a member, you can send correspondence to Swac Alumni Association, 875 Miller Creek Lane, Newport News, Virginia, 23602. The email address is swacalumuniassociation@yahoo.com.
welcome back to this week's edition of the Coles Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. I'm going to visit with Dr. Travian Scott. He's a Deputy Athletics Director and COO, Chief Operating Officer at Southern University. Once again, welcome, Dr. Scott.
Good morning. Good morning. Glad to be with you all.
Yeah, it's good to have you back with us. We're not going to pay attention to that voice we're hearing in the background. So we're going to have a conversation about, of course, Southern University athletics. And the big story, which I had shared with you earlier in the week, was Southern University and Jackson State coming to an agreement to play in spring 2021 as a non-conference game and in Jackson, Mississippi. With that being said, can you give us kind of some of the particulars about how this game came to be in spring 2021, and then we'll take it from there?
Sure. So, as everybody is aware, the SWAC, by virtue of the conference's presidents, chancellors, vice presidents, and athletic directors, came to an agreement on an 8-game spring schedule. As part of that spring schedule, of course, there were 2 bye weeks. One bye week was pretty much a non-negotiable with regard to everybody being able to play. And so the last bye week, April 3rd, the commissioner's office gave us the autonomy to schedule any type of out-of-conference contest as the institution saw fit. So with that, obviously, you put out a schedule and you have conversations, especially with the Southern and the Jackson faithful. And it's just one of those games where, it's kind of hard to miss. You put out a spring schedule and, the first question that's asked is, where's Jackson? Well, we decided, I had some extensive conversations with our leadership, with Athletic Director Roman Banks, with President Chancellor Dr. Ray Belton, and likewise had those conversations with the VP of Athletics over at Jackson State, Ashley Robinson. And so we decided that in keeping with our tradition year to year and the pageantry that goes with the contest, that it would only be right if Southern and Jackson kind of locked horns this spring. So we're very excited about that opportunity. I know you've got some questions. Of course, I'm very transparent, so I'll be able to answer them as best I can. But this had to happen. I mean, we've been through so much as a country, as a conference. Sports, no sports. However you want to term it. It was only right that again, these institutions get together and try to play as best we can a football game to try to lift the spirits of both institutions.
Yeah, and to be honest, when the spring schedule was released or announced, I had as many that text messaged me about, I can't believe it. Southern Jackson State is not playing. Yeah, well, it's a different year. It's a special year, and I was thinking of some other adjectives I could use. But this is not the norm. So, hey, you have to live with it. Now, they're on the schedule as the non-conference games. And then, Dr. Scott, I've had several people contact me and say, wait a minute, I wanted to play her, but not in Jackson. So, you see where I'm going. The situation is, but I know there is a plan, a reason why you're playing in Jackson. I know about social distancing, the limited seating in A.W. Mumford, but I'll stop there. You can explain it much better than I can for the reasoning playing in Jackson and Veterans Memorial Stadium.
Sure. So I can answer that question this way. It's 4 major components I look at, again, A.D. Banks, Dr. Belton, our board, took to consideration when looking at going to Jackson and playing a contest. The first, obviously, we talked about it earlier, is the rivalry, the history, the pageantry, the need for both institutions to have successful athletic programs. especially with football. What that means in terms of a driver and the competitive nature that both schools have, and to be quite frank, the disdain that both schools have for each other. Especially kind of hate. Yeah, and it's one of the things that kind of keeps both of those departments going. We get a lot of student athletes who want to come and be a part of that rivalry, and I'm sure they do as well. So that's the first part. Obviously, the second, with the federal guidelines, with the state guidelines the way they are, obviously our governor going to phase 3 just yesterday. It's kind of unpredictable as it relates to what we will be able to do in terms of being able to, be able to, in terms of capacity, fill the stadium, right? When we talked about our initial plan of social distancing and how we were going to fill Mumford Stadium, we were looking at crowds of less than 6,000. We've got more season ticket holders than that. And so to be able to host a game is important at Southern and Jackson State in a climate to where it's so unpredictable. Obviously, again, we're in phase 3, but we're getting ready to enter cold and flu season. So who knows what's going to happen, right? And so Jackson had the capacity at 60,000 seats, especially with the difference in their state guidelines and ours, of being able to do some different things in terms of how they could affect the capacity, which would be more in line with a typical Southern and Jackson State football game. And so obviously that played a part. The third element is basically us utilizing the spring game to ensure that we have a contest, have Jackson back on our schedule in the fall at home. And I think one of the things that we really strive to do is to be able to have some competitive opponents on our schedule that come to us at A.W. Mumford Stadium. You go back and look at our fall 2020 schedule, fall 19 schedule, I should say, fall 20, I'm sorry. We had probably the best schedule at home we've had in a long time. And that was by design, obviously, with Jackson at home and Florida A&M at home and Arkansas Pine Bluff at home. And, those games were representative of that overall mission and that goal, which is to have good games at Mumford. And so this gives us the ability to ensure we have Jackson State again at home in an era where we feel more comfortable with having vaccines and being able to really get on top of this COVID-19 pandemic. And so we've played the long game as it relates to, again, making sure that we can do things down the line that will better, again, represent the home environment that we look to establish at Mumford. And then the last, obviously, will probably be the least important, and that is the revenue portion of it. Obviously, if we're going to go to Jackson, with regard to what we've got to do in terms of budget forecasting and those things, with not having football and with basketball really still being in the air from a revenue generation standpoint, we couldn't then have a game on campus, which would cost us more to put the game on in the era of social distancing, whereby we go to Jackson, it will make more sense fiscally for us to be able to do. And so those were really the 4 or 5 main components that we looked at. We think it makes a great competitive sense. We think it makes great sense in terms of our schedule balancing, and it makes great sense fiscally for us as well. And so that was really the components that went into making that decision.
I'm visiting with Dr. Travian Scott, Deputy Athletic Director and COO, Chief Operating Officer at Southern University, discussing the Southern Jackson State non-conference game and the particulars on how the reasoning for having that game in spring 2021. So let me say this. If you have a question or comment, you can leave the question at the Coles Brown Show Facebook Messenger page, or some of you know how you can also text me if you have a question. So with that being said, let me. So there's a financial piece, of course, not like in a normal situation, but there is a financial piece for Southern University, correct? With this game, Southern and Jackson State.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, that one down. That is correct. Also, being the smooth negotiator, if we can look ahead, fall 2021, everything reasonably well. could there be another situation that you can have them at A.W. Mumford Stadium in a better situation? And would that be as a conference game, or could it be as a non-conference game?
Fall 21 is most likely going to be a conference game.
Okay, because the reason I put it that way is because and I was going to come to that as well. The format, how will it exactly be in 2021? If you can speak with that, but we'll get to that. But more likely a conference game. You're saying with Jackson State in fall 2021.
Correct. So what we're looking at, obviously, with the addition of the two new institutions, is playing everybody on our side. I think everybody knows with last week's news of Alcorn moving to the West. So we'll play everybody on the West, and then we'll more than likely have one common opponent every year. For us, I think that's going to be Jackson State, and then we'll rotate one other opponent on the other side of the schedule. Now, we still have the ability to, if we want to schedule out of conference, if we don't have FAM on the schedule, we can get with FAM and schedule out of conference Bethune and the other opponents on that side. So we still have that flexibility. And we still have the additional flexibility of being able to schedule a guaranteed contest with Power 5, Group of 5, and other institutions as well. So we look to having a schedule, again, that's balanced, that gives us some good opponents, some noteworthy opponents to be able to have in A.W. Mumford Stadium to really, be able to promote the environment that we look to promote on our campus. Everybody knows, what happens when you cross that hump, when you cross those railroad tracks, when you come on campus from those avenues from the standpoint of tailgating and some of the things that the Jaguar Nation have become known for. And so with that, I think comes the expectation of being able to put on a pretty good football game day environment, and a big piece of that to be able to have an opponent, obviously, that could rally the base, so to speak. And so those are some of the things that we look to achieve, and we're going to take full advantage of the scheduling model. I tell you guys all the time that we've got great leadership from the conference standpoint with Commissioner McClellan. And so, he's given us the flexibility, the athletic directors and presidents do an outstanding job working in unison to craft a model that's really beneficial for all of our member institutions. And so with that, we plan on taking full advantage of what we're able to do in terms of the game day experience on our campus and in Mumford Stadium.
Visiting with Dr. Travian Scott, Deputy Athletic Director and Chief Operating Officer for the Southern University Athletic Department. So if you put that visually in a numerical number, would it be, I'm talking about the conference format, would it be 5-1-2? Meaning 5, and you play 5, play everyone in your division, one common opponent from the other division, and then rotate the other teams in the conference? I'm trying to make sure I'm understanding that.
I think that is the model. That we haven't yet come to that conclusion. I think a lot of that will be decided here coming up in the next month and a half. Okay. But I do think that is the model. You play everybody on your side. You have one common opponent on the other side, and then you rotate two other opponents. So, again, that makes us feel comfortable with regard to what we can do. Obviously, we've got a lot of competitive balance on the West, especially, with Southern, taking on Alcorn, which is a great rivalry. I don't even have to get on here and discuss the Bayou Classic. We know what that is. Prairie View now is become quite a heated rivalry. Arkansas, Pine Bluff, and Texas Southern are improving. And so the balance on the West is pretty much solidified with regard to the competitive nature of the division. And then you have, again, I talked about probably our most hated rival in Jackson State, and then being able to, coming off of last year's game in Tallahassee, with them, being able to set a record with attendance over on the hill down in Tallahassee. And so, that gives us the ability to host games that, again, would rally the base and be interesting for our season ticket holders and for our other constituencies.
Gotcha. I got you. Moving along now. I was hoping that some are listening, if they have some, questions or comments. Okay, Dr. Prince has one, and then that'll give me an opportunity to get to my next point of interest with Dr. Scott.
Dr. Scott, I'm a little confused about the one common opponent. How is that even mathematically possible?
Well, I think the one common opponent is with regard to East and West. So we know we're going to play everybody on our side. Obviously, Jackson State knows that they're going to play everybody on their side. We know FAM is going to play everybody on their side. And so there'll be one common opponent on every side from what the early indications are. Now, mathematically, I don't know what that looks like. Maybe that goes for 8 of the 10, and maybe not everybody. I don't know quite clearly, to be honest with you. But from what I'm understanding, those early indications are we're going to try to play Jackson State as often as possible. Now, if that doesn't work out, then that gives us the ability then to call up Jackson or Jackson to give us a call. And, we be creative with some of the things that we can do for our contest, whether that be on our campus, their campus, or the neutral site. But we'll make every effort to try to preserve that rivalry. And again, if that doesn't happen, then, it's in our hands as athletic administrators at both institutions to make that best effort to see that we can try to make that occur if possible.
Right. And I understand the competitive traditional rival part, but I'm thinking about tiebreakers. If my top 2 teams have played an opponent from the East and they hadn't played that quote unquote common, I guess they go to a different layer of points and everything else to determine who would be the winner of that particular division, right?
Yeah, and there'll be some tiebreaker scenarios, I'm sure. I think, we've got, again, the advantage of having some pretty great leadership from a conference level. We do some pretty good things with being different and branding, especially football, different from a conference level the last, 2.5 years. And so I don't have any doubt that whatever plans that we solidify are going to be those that are going to be in the best interest of all of the membership. But for us, again, having that competitive advantage with the rivalries that we have, and that we either have them or developing them with some of our institutions on the West, we know that we're going to make that every effort to try to play Jackson, to try to have FAM on the schedule. That makes sense for us. And then if we don't, being able to use the flexibility of the schedule to see that it happens.
Okay, so when you say one common denominator, if Jackson is off your schedule, then that's going to be your non-conference automatic, and vice versa. If FAM is off, that would be your non-conference for that particular year. Is that how I'm
understanding it? Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And it'll give us the flexibility to do so. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense to me now, because I was thinking the common denominator, that would mathematically be impossible to determine who wins the East or the West. But that makes sense to me now. Thank you very much, as you were.
You're welcome. Now, I know that we're going to play 8 conference games, which is to me a little bit better than what we've been doing. And it gives us, again, the ability to do some things with our schedule from a game guarantee standpoint, from the revenue generation standpoint, while not jeopardizing the HBCU fan element that comes with some of our content. So very excited about it. Look forward to seeing some of the scheduling models. We look to have them here in the next month and a half, 2 months. I know we should have them and have them built around what I've already been able to do with our schedule, possibly before Thanksgiving is what I'm guessing.
Very interesting. Everyone's working hard to get this thing done. And let me say, you're not going to have 100% of the people and alums happy, but this is still a great opportunity with the addition of FAMU and Bethune-Cookman University, and now with Alcorn officially moving to the Western Division. The possibilities are unlimited to me. I'm still feeling good about everything, and it just makes now everyone has to bring their A game every week, no off week. You've got to win it to be in it. And so with that being said, Dr. Scott, I have a couple of questions and a comment for some listeners. Question: does Dr. Scott realize Southern University and JSU have played 5 of the last 7 games in Mississippi, and why this is a concern for fans?
Yeah, of course. But I would always look at it from a different standpoint as well. Obviously, the schedule flipped a couple of years ago, which warranted us going back to Jackson. Obviously, we fought that tooth and nail, but we have to be concerned with the here and the now, to be quite honest with you. Us going there this year was again based on those elements that I outlined earlier. And it was really in the best interest of Southern University athletics. If you want me to be 100% honest with you, there was no way that we'd be able to play Jackson State at home this year, with sub 5,000 fans, no tailgating, no nothing. And so that just wasn't going to work. Contrarily, if we didn't play Jackson, then that would have been an issue as well with regard to why we're not playing Jackson. And so, I understand that the historical piece of it. Those 5, 6, and 7 years I've been here all of that time, and I understand, what that looks like in terms of being a fan. But it was something that was warranted with regard to this year's schedule and what we had to do.
And from a personal standpoint, I'm happy because Southern hasn't lost to Jackson State in that time. So I'm going to be. I'm going to admit.
And to that end, we've affectionately renamed Jackson Baton Rouge, Mississippi. So we're really playing a home game anyway. So we just have to really sit back and enjoy it and let our guys play and go down there and bring back a win.
Yeah, I'm gonna get.
That's for your listener. The last time I was on the air.
Yeah. Also, let me move quickly. When will Southern University have the ability to watch games online for a fee? Other SWAC schools offer this option.
Great question. We're working on it now. We've had some conversations. We're working on some different things with being able to stream our contests, and not just for football, for every sport. Mm-hmm. And so we're working on that now. Actually, I had a meeting with our senior associate AD, Rodney Kirshner, and AD Banks this week. We had some extensive discussions about putting a bow on that process. So we look to roll that out next fall. We're also doing, some different things with regard to videos and being able to put out more creative content through our marketing area. So it's a really exciting time, and we're putting those things together and look forward to rolling them out to the Jaguar Nation.
Also, season book online payment system update.
Same thing. So again, I'm usually bouncing around the department in pretty much every area. We've had those discussions with our ticket office as well, with our CFO. We're working on rolling that out through Artix and being able to put that out. We were able to do some online things with our tickets over the course of the past 2 years. We'll continue that, but we look to be more creative in what we're able to do with our online offerings and being able to see your seats in terms of where you're sitting and be more interactive in terms of donating tickets at a push of a button. And so those are some of the things that we're working on now in anticipation of again that very competitive 2021 home slate. And so we look to roll that out here in the coming months.
Well, I think I've just about covered everything, and thanks for those questions and comments from a listener. I think last time we talked, one of the last times we talked in the past few months, I think we did talk about, maybe you talked about the types of non-conference games that you're looking to put together going forward, 2021 and on. You kind of close to having that piece of the schedule done?
Yes. I should be done with 2021 probably in another month and a half. And really just putting a bow. I think I've got one more to fill, but I'm working on 23, 24, and 25. Mm-hmm. Obviously, with the Detroit Classic being canceled, I've got a gentleman's agreement with the Detroit Sports Commission and Jumo Group to be able to go back out there I don't know if that's going to happen in 24, 25, or 26, but that's the first thing that we're looking to do. Obviously, we talked about LSU being able to put pen to paper on that deal, and so we have that done and solidified for 2022 as well. And so we're looking at trying to schedule out. If I can get a schedule through the conference office, which I anticipate being able to get something really all the way up to possibly 28, 29, and 30. And so we can get that done here in the next few months, which we expect we'll have our non-conference slate really done probably at least until 25 or 26.
Yeah, that's called working, looking ahead, getting it done. Going to be very interesting. If there's an opportunity, of course, and this is kind of catchy for some of the Southern alums that I've talked to, but you have a conference that is close to you geographically. In the future, will you see more matchups with members of the Southland Conference?
Well, I think that's a tricky question.
Ongoing discussion.
I would say it's tricky, and the reason why is because we got a great relationship, obviously, with their administration, but when it comes to being able to travel and stadium capacity and some of the things that we offer with our fan base, it can be tricky. Obviously, Southeastern's 45 minutes away from us. That would be a contest that I know we're interested in. I know they're interested in. Does it make sense for us from a fan standpoint to go down there? Possibly not.
You fill the stadium up yourself.
Right. And so correct. And so, that may be something that, we may need to have and be creative with, how we schedule. Obviously, geography is very important. Obviously, Coach Odom's tank of gas philosophy is something that we look to carry even into our game philosophy, because, if it's his tank of gas philosophy in terms of recruiting, then we want to hit those areas, tank of gas, 8 hours on end, from Nashville to Atlanta to Dallas to Houston to Memphis, through Jackson, all the way, as far west as maybe even Tallahassee and Jacksonville. And so, as far east as Tallahassee and Jacksonville, as far west as possibly Austin. And so we look to try to come up with a creative schedule that would support, obviously, you're right, that would support his overall goal in terms of recruiting and being able to create, that type of gas philosophy. We also look to schedule in areas where we have robust alumni bases. Houston, Atlanta, Memphis, Dallas has a great base. Nashville has a great base. And so, Baton Rouge, obviously, New Orleans has great bases. And so we look to be able to have that support from that standpoint in that scheduling. So, having local games against Southland Conference opponents is a possibility. Obviously, we went to Northwestern a few years ago. We may even engage Nickel State here in the next couple of years, obviously with their new athletic administration in place, but only if it benefits Sloan University and the overall philosophy and mission and goals of what we look to achieve in terms of the student-athlete experience, in terms of what, our football coaches and our football staff's recruiting philosophy is, and only if it makes fiscal sense and keeps us fiscally responsible. Sometimes when Southern travels, it's for the benefit of the institution that we're playing and not our own. And so we have to really be protective of our brand and protective of our base, because our base is very loyal to us from the standpoint of travel and being able to affect everybody else's economic impact, so to say, as it relates to their local areas. And so, we have to be protective of our base. And so in that regard, we're going to do the best things, as it relates to our base and to our institution and to our product and our brand that we can do.
And last but not least, if you're a big follower of social media, you saw the mayor of New Orleans at a press conference. Boy, was she hot. She was frustrated and talking about phase 2 and high school athletics in New Orleans. Bayou Classic, still up in the air of where it's going to be played, I would think, as of right now.
So we're getting ready to finalize our Bayou Classic plans. We look to have an announcement probably before the end of the month, and what we're going to do. Obviously, with New Orleans still being in phase 2, that's a bit of a concern, but not really. From the standpoint of the phase, yes. From the standpoint of, again, Southern, Grambling, and what the Bayou Classic has to offer, no. But, as I often say, we're going to do the best thing within the best interest of Southern. Grambling's going to do the best thing in the best standpoint of Grambling, and we'll make those decisions together, as we so often have, as it relates to Bayou Classic, which date back all the way to 2005 when we had to move the Bayou Classic to Houston because of Hurricane Katrina. That's not just a Southern decision. That's not just a Grambling decision. That's both institutions getting together with the leadership, with the athletic leadership, with the institutional leadership, getting together and making those decisions. And that's no different in this instance. And so, there's a lot of dialogue going on behind the scenes. We look to have an announcement out before month's end. So we're very excited about it. Very excited about the possibilities, and we'll have a Bayou Classic. Whether it's in New Orleans or Timbuktu, it'll still be the Bayou Classic. And so we'll have something out here pretty soon. And
Appreciate you coming on as always. Dr. Scott, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Always be safe, be blessed, and enjoy yourself tonight. I'm sure you're going to be watching the purple and gold, the Lakers. But maybe, just maybe, it could be purple and gold versus the black and red. Just maybe. We shall see.
Look, it's gonna be the purple and gold. I just got to get Dr. Prince off of that James Harden wagon. We're gonna go ahead and take care. We're gonna go ahead and take care of business tonight, and we'll get ready for the Clippers.
Yeah, I hear you. My team is they're getting respect, but it doesn't matter. Butler says it doesn't matter if he gets respect or not. He'll lead his team in the battle, and once again, we're going to be underdogs again. But hey, I've enjoyed the basketball in the bubble. I must admit. You
know what? There are two types of people, Dr. Prince: Lakers and Laker haters.
On that note, Dr. Scott, I'm gonna let you go. Stay safe, my friend. We got to take a break. Yeah, well, at least my team is still playing. That's a good thing about it. But enjoy yourself, Dr. Scott. We'll talk again real soon.
Talk soon. Go Jags.
All righty. Go Jags. Go Jags. Go Swac. Go Heat. And go to a commercial. You're listening to the Carlos Brown Show on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com.
One voice. It can get the point across, but it only carries so far. Add a voice. It's richer, louder, but that has limits too. Add a third voice. It's even more powerful. Add another, and many, many more. And we are stronger than ever. That's the power of a community coalition. They help community groups, faith groups, civic organizations, PTAs, employers, and many others in your community organize their resources and focus them where they're needed most, like fighting to keep kids away from drugs. Ask a group that you belong to if they should belong to a community coalition. It's easy to get involved. Visit helpyourcommunity.org and they'll tell you exactly how your group can help. That's helpyourcommunity.org, because you get more when we get together. Brought to you by the Office of National Drug Control Policy and the Ad Council.
I present to you 3 of the fiercest subjects ever assembled in the cage of doom. First, the brain-wrenching behemoth, Algebra 2, weighing in at a mind-boggling 800 pounds. Foreign languages! The multilingual international sensation capable of tossing you clear across the Atlantic. And finally, biology. More ferocious than formaldehyde, she'll dissect you 1 chromosome at a time. Who among you will step up to their challenge?
I'll do it. Me too. I'm in. Sign me up.
Take on the tough classes now. You need them to prepare for college. Find out which classes you need at knowhowtogo.org.
Brought to you by the American Council on Education, Lumina Foundation for Education, and the Ad Council.
Hello, I'm Dr. Mike Prince, the pastor of the Temple of Refuge Ministries located in Prairie View, Texas. I am extending a personal invitation to you to come and worship with us Sunday mornings, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. Simply dial 857-777-0000 and join us for our morning worship. In the event that you miss us live, you can always go to our on-demand center at 720-721-1558 to listen to our latest sermons and Bible studies. Temple of Refuge Ministries, where we're building the kingdom, one soul at a time. Numbers to dial again for our live sermons, 857-777-0000 and on demand, 720-721-1558. Be blessed.
Chris, can you put the video game controller down for a second?
I can talk and play. Oh, I'm totally annihilating this punk kid in Nebraska.
I just feel like you're not acting like a grown-up in our relationship.
Am too.
Well, you still ride your skateboard to work, there's the comic book collection, the race car bed.
Look, I'm young at heart, but I put money into my 401k every paycheck. I picked up a few savings tips at feedthepig.org. I have control of my financial life now, and that feels pretty grown up.
Put away a few bucks, feel like $1,000,000. Putting some money from every paycheck into a savings account or contributing to your 401k can make a big difference later. For free ideas and easy tips on ways to save, go to feedthepig.org. That's feedthepig.org.
So, I bet I look like a grown-up to you now.
Well, except for the footy pajamas, I'd have to agree.
This message brought to you by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants and the Ad Council.
You know, I like that reggae music. It's so relaxing. Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. We hadn't talked to him in a couple of weeks. Now I'm going to visit with Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network. Charles, good morning to you. How are you doing, sir?
Good morning. I miss you guys.
Yeah, been a couple of weeks.
And 2 weeks in the Southwestern Athletic Conference is like an eternity because there's never a lack of news.
Well, I understand, and you're calling the games for Vicksburg High School and took it on the chin, I believe, last night, huh?
Yep, we lost 27-0. Played a good second half. Our defense has held tough, but we're running this wing tee for the first time, and that takes some time to develop. We've had some open receivers and some plays are there to be made, just haven't made them on the offensive side of these three quarterbacks. Tom McDaniel's the head coach of Vicksburg High, and he played middle linebacker at Alcorn, was successful at 3A Hazelhurst. So he knows what a championship team looks like, but right now we're just not there quite yet. So there's a little bit of work to do.
Yeah, the wing tee? Wow. Who's the offensive coordinator? Or is he the offensive coordinator, and how did he come up? I mean, back in the day, that was outstanding defense. It was hard to stop, but I think everybody likes the RPO, the spread, all those type of offenses.
Well, he grew up around, his father helped develop the wing tee for him growing up and playing football. So that's all he knows. Of course, he played his college days at Alcorn, so he knows defense, but he doesn't really deal with that side of it. It's the wing tee, and as you know, that takes time. You got to have a lot of reps, and they haven't had a lot of reps because of COVID-19, the starts and stops. He was hired late, so I mean, he's not making any excuses, but it's going to take a little time for that to develop. But I do think that over time, he'll be pretty good for Vicksburg.
Well, patience is the word that you must remember. until it gets better. But some things to talk with you about, get your perspective on, because it's been a couple of weeks. You predicted Alcorn to the Western Division. That has happened. Of course, you know that. Everybody knows that. But you're not surprised because the last time you were on, you thought that Alcorn will be the team to move to the Western Division.
Yes, not surprised. I had no inside knowledge in terms of what Swac was going to come up with. You know, the commissioner said he's going to let the fans play a part in it and have some fun with it. But I just look at a map and just see that Alcorn is the most centrally located school to the 10 institutions prior to Bethune and Florida A&M coming on board. To me, it just made sense. I didn't see Jackson State. They're a little bit too far east, and I didn't see Valley, even though some people felt like that could have been a possibility. I didn't see that either. And even I interviewed our president, Dr. Felicia M. Nade, the other day. I haven't posted it, but I will today. And just get her thoughts. Of course, being a president, she was a part of that process. And she did say logistics and geography played a huge part in her mind, and just cutting down on travel costs also played a factor in terms of Alcorn joining the West. I'll be posting that a little bit later on, but I'm not surprised. It just made sense to me, just looking at the map. The eyeball test told me that it probably was going to be Alcorn. You never know how it was going to turn out, but I thought that it would be. It's turned out to be the case, and I think it's made the Western Division even spicier. It's already drama-filled as it is in the West with the Bayou Classic and Southern and Alcorn and Jackson and Southern, but now you add Alcorn in that mix. It just makes the West even wackier and wilder, and I think it opens the door for Florida A&M in the East. I predict. You asked me this months ago, who would dominate the East? Whoever team leaves the East and goes to the West. I think the East is going to be Florida A&M for the foreseeable future. Once Alcorn leaves the East and goes to the West, Florida A&M and Alabama A&M.
Oh, Charles. Well, we talk facts and opinions, and I respect your opinion. Maybe I can get you to look at this maybe from a different perspective. I had Coach Ely on, and he basically said it's not going to be given to FAMU and Bethune-Cookman. They're going to have to earn it. And I've heard what you just mentioned. I've heard it from even some Southernites who said it's just going to be so easy. But let me remind everybody, and let's see what you think about this. Since we're big on streaks, and I've often talked about one streak that is just abomination. You know what that one is, Charles.
Absolutely.
But FAMU, yeah, I had to say that. Huh? But
let's not be around the bush, Carlos. We all know what that is.
but you know, it's all about matchups. Just like that abomination you just mentioned. Then Southern has a 7 straight against Jackson State. But my point is, Bethune-Cookman University, I think everybody's overlooking them. And they hold a very successful record against FAMU. I want to say 9 straight. So with that being said, they're going to have to earn it, Charles. I just automatically believe and say that they're going to rule for the foreseeable future. They're going to have to earn it.
I get that, but you have to understand who is the head coach at Florida A&M, which is Willie Simmons.
He's cocky and arrogant.
He helped build Alcorn's offense under Jay Hobson. The offense that's still intact today, by the way. The system is still the same as it was back then. It's just that the pieces have changed. The players have changed, but the system is exactly the same. And we know what has happened, over the last several years with Alcorn running that system. So now the system hasn't changed. You have another team running it. You have Willie Simmons running it. And I mean, if you just look at the Eastern Division, the Eastern Division is, to me, more of a defensive-minded conference, a defensive-minded division. On the West, it's wild. It's a ton of points. It's a lot of shootouts. But if Florida A&M can run their stuff offensively, who in the East, other than maybe Bethune-Cookman, and I would add them in there, and Alabama A&M, I would put those two. Who in the East, Valley, Jackson, Bama State, can offensively match toe-to-toe with Florida A&M? Personally, I don't see it. Unless they just don't have the offensive pieces to be able to continue to put pressure on you scoring the football, I just don't see that happening. I think Florida A&M will be very successful. Maybe dominance is too strong of a word, but I don't see Florida A&M, slacking in that area. Now, defensively, it's a whole other ball game because they've lost some high-scoring games. But I don't see it. I just don't see right now, other than Akil Glass, and of course this is his last year, and A&M's going to have to get it done to be able to build that momentum and build that roster as Florida A&M and Bethune come online in 21. Once Alcorn leaves, I see Alabama A&M being one of the old stalwarts that could challenge them. Bama State's still struggling offensively. Jackson State, you don't know what's going to happen with that. You have Valley, that's up and coming. So it's tough. I just don't see it from my eyeball test. Things can change. The transfer portal, players are coming in. We've seen how players are coming into our conference from bigger programs. That could change. That could change the dynamic of things. But right now, from what I see at this very moment, I just can't see a team in the East in 21 matching Florida A&M offensively.
Challenge is going to be for me to go and look at the majority of those games between Bethune-Cookman and FAMU. Bethune-Cookman has found something. And once again, I would not, if I'm a coach on that side, look, they're going to have to earn it. You may win, but you're going to earn it. We're just not going to just automatically say, well, they're going to dominate. But we shall see. We shall see on that. It's going to be very, very competitive. And I've had a chance to talk to Courtney Gaucher, Coach Banks. I just kind of wanted to get their statement of, how they feel about Alcorn moving to the West, Coach Ponton. And I didn't expect them to say anything different, but they all said it made sense. And, they all voted. They had to vote. And so it's, of course, a done deal, Charles. We will see. We will see. Lou Brock, you're a St. Louis native and a big Cardinals fan. You let me know that on numerous occasions. Lou Brock passing away this past week. Your thoughts?
Just a great loss for baseball, a great loss from the Cardinal organization. Being a Cardinal fan, a lifelong Cardinal fan myself. Of course, you all know about Lou Brock in terms of what he's done down there. Just a great loss. I mean, when you talk about speed, Lou Brock invented it. It starts and stops with him and what he did throughout the course of history in the stolen base department. How he was able, you talk about Willie Simmons putting pressure on teams defensively. That's what Lou Brock did. In baseball, when you have speed, you're putting pressure on teams defensively with shifts, and it made a difference. And so it's just a great loss for baseball all around with the passing of Lou Brock and my who plays for my hometown team, the Cardinals.
Yeah, I didn't know he's originally drafted. Played with the Cubs. Interesting. Yeah. And then, of course, traded to St. Louis. And that is a big-time rivalry. And St. Louis has had the better of the Cubs. But, hey, yeah. See, I remember, and I give my opinion, and I'm going to be honest about it. But guess what? I'm still a Cubs fan. Still a Cubs fan. Jay Hobson, Charles, didn't make my trending story, but no longer at Southern Miss. I think people are saying there's more to the story than being known right now? What do you think happened with Coach Hobson being out at Southern Miss?
I'm gonna take a different approach. I mean, I think there were some people behind the scenes that probably the big money donors that probably didn't care too much for all the protests, the Black Lives Matter deal. I think that drew some negative criticism from the big money donors. And let's face it, USM's budget, and we all know the athletic budget in terms of where they are in the FBS is near the bottom. Jay Hobson's salary amongst the bottom in the FBS. I told somebody the other day, there's certain things that just can't happen. USM's fertile recruiting ground is Mobile. And of course, Mobile is where South Alabama is located. South Alabama was a program that wasn't even on the map in terms of football. They went from not being on the map to D3 and moving up the ladder. You see where they are now, an FBS program. Brand new stadium. It seats 25,000. And it was not it was a bad loss for USM. There's no question about that. I think you add that in the sense that what's happened over the last couple of years, the program, I think, every program has expectations and just didn't get it there. And I think for Jay Hobson to walk away after one game, obviously there's other stuff thrown in there for him to make that call. It's just tough. I mean, to walk away after one game. They got an interim coach who's one of the youngest in the country. But there's some other stuff there. It'll probably come out over time, but just knowing Jay Hobson personally, he would not have done that unless he absolutely had to do it. And he felt like that loss at that time, in that moment, it was the right thing to do, just to step away. I think he will be back on the sideline somewhere, not this year, maybe not even next year. But I think, he's a young guy overall in the coaching circles. I do think he'll be back on the sideline somewhere. You hear all kinds of speculation, Jackson State and all that. I mean, that's a whole nother show. And Ashley Robinson likes to make a big splash. That'll be a big splash. You can make it happen, but in my opinion, I don't think it will. I think Jay Hobson's going to take a break. But that's just was not a good loss. There's some things that can't happen. And even though wins and losses happen all the time, you can lose to anyone anytime. But Mobile and that territory, the Gulf Coast region, that's a fertile recruiting ground for USM in every sport, because they play South Alabama in every sport. And that was just a bad loss. And I think there's some other stuff just snowballed into where they are right now, and finding another coach. They've got a young one, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Well, it's a business, and these things happen from time to time. The big question is, in the conference, Jackson State, of course, I'm sure you've heard about what's going to happen. Who could it be? Could it be prime time? And I talked to several people who just offered their opinion now. Say it would be disrespectful of all the other coaches that you could hire, and they have experience, head coaching experience. They felt it would be a slap in the face if JSU makes that hire. But from what I've been told, should be having an announcement coming before the month's over with, and they'll announce their new football coach. And all I'll say is this, Charles: the decisions you make, weigh it heavily, because the decisions that you make can have long-lasting effects. And even now, with the addition of Cookman University and FAMU, the head coaches, no matter what sport, the competition level has gone up tremendously. And so you got to bring your A game. We got about a minute left. Closing comments, Charles.
Well, I was going to add to that. I mean, you have to understand Ashley Robinson, the athletic director, to understand the decision he made. I interviewed him, Swac Media, Football Media Day 2019, and he told me, he says he doesn't even look at timing when he makes coaching changes. He doesn't care what time of the year it is. It could be week 0 or week 11. If he feels like a change needs to be made, he'll make it. And he's done that with Tony Hughes and promoting Hendricks and letting him go. I do think contracts and money plays a part in it because you got 2 full seasons in a calendar year. So you're either going to have to let them go or extend them. Southern in the same boat. They just extended Dawson Odoms. I think that's the same decision had to be made at Southern. But they decided to keep Dawson Odoms and extend him for 2 seasons in a calendar year. They decided not to do that with Tony Hughes, with John Hendricks. So, I mean, Ashley Robinson, a swashbuckler of an AD, he's going to do things a little bit differently and on his time frame and his timeline. But he's told me on the record that it doesn't matter what time things need to be done. If he feels like he's got to make a change, he's going to do it. And it's not surprising, knowing those comments that he made to me at Swac Media Day. It is different, but it's not surprising because that's pretty much what he told me over a year ago.
Yeah, he's a special dude. I'll leave it on that note. Y'all have a great weekend. We will talk again real soon.
All right, you guys be safe.
All righty. Want to thank the following: Michael Coker, Coach Donald Hill Ely, Dr. Travian Scott, and Charles Edmond, and also Dr. Michael Prince. Everyone, enjoy the rest of your weekend, and make sure you tune in next Saturday at 10 a.m. for another edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Until next time, peace and God bless.